Hi friends, happy Tuesday. Yesterday we focused on lines of symmetry when you cut a polygon or shape in half, and it is a line of symmetry if they match exactly. So great job with that. Today we are going to analyze and classify angles. When I say angles, I truly mean triangles. There's two ways that you classify or name them, determine them. And one is their sides and the other is their angles. So we're going to look at different triangles and identify the type of sides they have and the type of angles. Once we identify those, we can name those angles. Okay, what you need to open up your workbook, and it says 4.13 attribute page, and then behind it should be a blank page. We're going to fill those in when we learn how to classify those. You also need your whiteboard, your marker. If you could have a straight edge, because we're going to be drawing. So if like a Post-it note works, if you have your protractor, a ruler, kids in my class use their whiteboards, whatever you need. So let's review a little from yesterday. How many lines of symmetry does a circle have? So remember, we talked about the circle. It needs to go through that midpoint. So you have to cut the shape in half in order to have a line of symmetry. So we talked about we could spend all day, we could spend all year doing lines of symmetry through a circle, and we would never be able to count them all up. There is an infinite amount. It goes on forever and ever. Infinite amount of lines of symmetry. Okay, there's an infinite amount, infinity. It keeps going. Okay. All right, we do have a triangle song. I'm going to pause my video. You're going to go to the Schoology folder from today and you can listen to this song. Hopefully you just loved that song. So it talks about the different triangles we're going to focus on today. We had the equilateral, isosceles, and scalene triangle. And then we talked about the angles a little bit. We talked about right, obtuse, acute angles. So a little bit you need to know about a triangle. Did you know that a triangle has a total of 180 degrees? So all three of those angles put together equals 180 degrees. Just a little fact for you. So when we're identifying those angles, remember, when you have three of them together, it equals 180 degrees. Doesn't matter what the triangle looks like, all three angles will equal 180 degrees. So what I want you to do right now is I'm going to use that blank page. Let me see if you can see me. That blank page next to the attribute page, and I'm going to take notes here. We're going to have three different triangles. Using your straight edge, we can fill it in. So our first one, and you can feel free to pause your video if you want to make sure you're writing it correctly, is our equilateral triangle. I want you to notice the word equal. It doesn't really spell it the same way that we spell it, but still, as a reminder, it has the word equal in it, okay? So we know an equilateral triangle, it has three sides, right? All triangles have three sides. It has three angles, and all three angles are the same. All three sides are the same. Well, how do we know? These symbols right here, they're showing us that this, because there's two slashes, and this, two slashes, and this, two, they call them tick marks, they are congruent, equal. So an equilateral triangle has three equal sides and three equal angles. And that means we know because there's 180 degrees, each angle is 60 degrees. What I'd like you to do on your note sheet is make sure you have this in, and then of course, draw an example for me, just like you see. So pause your video, draw this example for me. I'm going to just hold up my workbook so you can see. I just wrote the term, three equal sides, 3 equal angles, and I drew my picture using my straight edge. Remember, friends, as you're taking notes, if you can't read your notes, it's kind of pointless to take the notes. Take the time, make it look nice and neat. Equilateral triangle, 3 equal sides, 3 equal angles. Go ahead, pause your video. Up next, we have the isosceles triangle. Everyone say isosceles. The isosceles triangle has 2 sides that are equal and 2 angles that are equal. We know this, we see these tick marks, right? And there's 2. This one doesn't have one, meaning it's a different length than the other 2 sides, okay? We also see the arcs of the angles. These 2 are the same arcs, so we know that they're the same size. So in your workbook, on that blank page, you're going to write isosceles triangle, 2 equal sides, 2 equal angles, and then draw your picture of an isosceles triangle. How I remember this one, let me show you real quick. There's 2 S's. So those 2 S's to me remind me 2 sides that are the same. There's 2 because there's 2 that are the same. An isosceles triangle, okay? Go ahead, pause your video, check that one out, and then we'll keep moving to the next one. So far we have equilateral and isosceles. All right, friends, so we've learned the equilateral triangle, the isosceles triangle, and the last one we're gonna learn today is the scalene triangle. Scalene, when I say scalene, you say scalene. Scalene. So a scalene triangle has all 3 sides are different or unequal, and all 3 angles are different or unequal. So notice those tick marks we were talking about. This side only has 1, this side has 2, and this one has 3. They're all different symbols because each side is different. And then when we look at the angles, this arc of the angle only has 1, this one has 2, this one has 3. Again, all 3 angles are different, so they all 3 have a different symbol, right, to represent that. So in your note sheet, you can write a few things. I did scalene triangle. I drew my picture. 3 unequal sides, 3 unequal angles. Forgot the word angles. And those are our 3 triangles we're going to focus on today. So I would take a picture of my note sheet. So when you're studying your precise words, this could be a helpful tool for you. I give you like 15, 30 seconds to read through these, kind of try to wrap your head around it, try to come up with little ways to remember, and then check back with me. So pause your video real quick. All right, so we learned all about the different triangles. My question for you is, what do the tick marks tell us on a polygon? Specifically, in this illustration or picture here, I see tick marks. What do we know about those tick marks? Hopefully you said something that because they all have the same symbol, they all have 1 tick mark, that means all 3 of those sides are equal or congruent. So this symbol tells us if sides are the same or if they're different. All right, on your whiteboard, I'd like you to draw a triangle. Simply draw a triangle like you see on my screen. And I want you to identify how many lines of symmetry does a triangle have? We know we have to cut the shape in half, and it's got to match up. So try that, and then we'll go over it real quick. All right, hopefully you realized that there were 3 lines of symmetry. There's one right down the middle, right? We also have, hang on, I want to show you a picture of mine because I don't always do mine good. I'm going to try again, but where'd my annotate go? So 1 line of symmetry, 2, if you kept going here, and 3. There are 3 lines of symmetry in a triangle. 3 lines of symmetry. Okay? All right. So if you can flip to problem set 13, it's like lesson 13, so I think it's 4.13, and it's problem set. There's 2 pages, but we're going to start on the one that says 4.13 problem sets. Should look something like this. Make sure it says problem set, and then we're starting at question 1. We're going to classify those angles, those triangles. Remember we talked about there's 2 ways to classify or name a triangle, based on their side and based on their angle. So we're going to look for tick marks, we're going to look for arcs when we're looking at those angles to help us classify. So first, let's look here. Already I noticed 2 tick marks, okay? Because I see those 2 tick marks, I'm able to identify that they have 2 sides that are congruent or equal. Therefore, I know 2 sides, right? Mrs. Andrews told us those 2 S's, that isosceles is the type. And I can identify that just by looking at those tick marks, okay? By looking at those tick marks, I'm able to see, well, if they have 2 sides that are the same, then I know that they have 2 angles that are going to be the same. I also notice here that one of my angles is very large. The other 2 are smaller, they're acute. But this one right here is an obtuse angle. So this is an isosceles triangle that's considered obtuse. Let's try another one. Take a second, identify the tick marks, maybe go back and use your note page. What do we know about this triangle? Okay, hopefully when you looked at this one, you identified that there were 3 tick marks, and all 3 of those tick marks were the same, telling us that they're equal. If we know that they're equal, that means it's an equilateral triangle. We also know all equilateral triangles have 3 angles that are the same, and those are 60-degree angles. And what do we know about all 60-degree angles? They're acute. So this would be an equilateral acute triangle. Okay? Keep it moving. Ooh, this one, it doesn't have any tick marks, but I do notice that one angle is a little different than the other 2 angles. I also noticed that all 3 sides are different. There's no tick marks, but just looking at it, I could see that all 3 sides are different. Now, I'm going to start over here with the angles because I immediately look and I know this symbol. I know this symbol means it's a right angle. So already I know that. I also know that all 3 of these are different. All 3 are different. All the angles are going to be different. So when they're different, we call them scalene. Scalene, okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you another 30 seconds or so to go through, just review these different terms that we learned about today with triangles, and then you have an exit ticket. I just want to see what you know, what you remember. Please don't use your notes for it. I just want to see what you learned from today's lesson. So it's on Schoology, just a few questions. Thanks for working hard.